what? It's your boy Rob, aka Novelty Life, coming at y'all with another real quick life talk video. And this is the first life talk video that I've done in quite a bit. I've been working on some side projects, so this is episode number 7. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about and discussing financial literacy and value. And as a reason why I want to put these as my topic of today in this kind of like educational. I'm the oldest child of 7 kids. And as the oldest child of 7 kids, I feel like I have willing to listen to what I have to say. And this is not to say that I'm perfect. This is not to say that I have it all together as far as my finances, because I don't. I'm still growing. And from where I was a couple of years ago to where I am now, I feel like God is still leading me on my personal journey. And so first, I'm going to just say there is multiple brackets when it pertains to finances and jobs that you might work and the brackets that you want to be in. Robert Kiyosaki coins the different brackets as employed, self-employed, business, and investor. So with these brackets, you would want to excuse my laughing, that's Tatiana right there. You'll want to work your way towards the business and investor quadrant. Now, we all start off in the employee and the self-employed quadrant. These are like the two easiest ones coming out of living with our parents and moving on our own that we end up in. 9 times out of 10, if you're living with your mother or your father and you're going off to college, you're going to be going into the employment world, trying to figure out what you want to do for yourself as far as your goals, your passion, your vision, and anything that it takes to get yourself to that business and investor quadrant. You know, Robert Kiyosaki and his wife talks about a fixed mind and a growth mind. Now, a fixed mind is literally a person who feels as if that they have what they have and they're never going to have anything else, and that they have to live with the cards that they have been dealt. Now, no one, and I'm here to say that no one has to be lived with the cards that you're dealt. You have the potential, you have the opportunity to literally get yourself from the beginning, wherever you're starting, to where you're trying to go. That is the beauty of having a growth mindset. You know that there is a next level capabilities. So, you know, we have our debit cards, we have credit cards, and without having good credit, sometimes you can barely do anything. But at the same time, on the flip side, on that coin, without having the right amount of currency, you still cannot do anything. So you technically need both. You're going to need to have both a good cash flow coming in, and you're going to need to have good credit. You know, watching your credit score is essential, making sure that you're not going into too much debt, but understanding that debt isn't always a bad thing. And when I first started to learn about debt and controlling debt, I had to look at something that my mother had taught me growing up. My mom tends to be very frugal, and my stepfather tends to be very he's outgoing with his money. He'll do what he has to do. If you gotta buy something, he's gonna go buy it. So I kind of had these two different ideologies of money and growing up, where on one hand I'm saving and I'm being very frugal. On the other hand, if it's something I really like, I'm gonna take that money, I'm gonna go splurge on it if it's something I really, really like. So you have to understand there's maintaining a certain bracket of money, a certain bracket. So let's say you are fresh out of college, you got that dream job of yours, and you're making $50,000, maybe $70,000 a year. So you want to live below your means. And when I say live below your means, if you're making $50,000, you need to have a mindset that says, hey, even though I make $50,000 a year, I'm willing to live on a smaller portion of that. So you make a 50,000, don't be ashamed or feel ashamed to live on 30,000 or 40,000. Now I know it's easier said than done, but it's possible if you minimize your debt to expense ratio. If you literally, for what is coming in, finances you're getting to what you're spending it on, you limit that and you figure out a price range of what you're willing to spend every month, what you're willing to save every month. That brings me into the next category: save, 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 save. Yearly, you want to be saving something. Now, traditionally, we've been taught to save our money for a rainy day. While this is okay, I don't have an issue with the idea of saving your money for a rainy day, but you have to take it a step further. You have to take the saving your money and put it into the next quadrant on the controlled debt spectrum of investing. Investing what you save, because when you invest the money that you've saved, you can create more money on top of what you've been able to save, which means that you're going to have you're going to grow your financial revenue from that 50,000 to, let's say, 70,000, let's say 80,000, 90,000, 100,000. You'll become the person that you want to be just by realizing that you're saving and you're investing your money. Now, like I said, it's easier said than done when we live in a society that is literally built on consumerism. They literally have a YouTube video on how to sell to the Negro. This video is literally teaching, at the time, it was teaching white people at that time how to sell to black people. And this is a trend that is still going on, but it's not just going on to black people anymore. It's actually broad. It's actually the entire world, in a sense, how to sell to a human being, in a sense, how to sell to us. Because, you look at TV, you look on social media, they're constantly pumping something out there. There's always something that we're going to want to buy. So this is not a race thing by any means necessary at this point. This is literally economics, finances, and when I say I am not a financial broker, I am not an investor, I am not by any means necessary a accountant or anything. I have a journalism degree, I write novels, and I operate as a personal trainer and a cook. That is literally what I do. But this is the stuff I've learned over these past 5 years because it wasn't taught to me in college. It wasn't taught to me in high school. So the fact that these key things were not taught to me early on as a child, heading into adulthood, it puts me at a disadvantage. One that I'm okay with, knowing that I'm able to reach and learn with knowledge and continue to gather more information, I'm okay with that. And so I like a little quote: create a system where money works for you and not the other way around. That is literally what your goal has to be in this society. You can work one job if that's what you want to do. You can work 2 jobs if you want to do. I've done that. But you want to ultimately get to the point where you're creating a system where money works for you and not the other way around. Because if you're just working for money day in, day out, you're exchanging time for revenue instead of exchanging revenue for time. So one thing I like to preach is to try your hardest, try your best to get yourself from the employee bracket, self-employed bracket, to the investor and business bracket. Because when you're getting to that point, you're going to start to allow your money to work for you. And there's multiple ways to do that. I'm not going to get into that at the moment, but there are multiple ways to do that. So you want to minimize how much money is going out compared to how much money is coming in, as we've mentioned with controlling your debt and pretty much saving and investing. Now you have to understand, when it pertains to debt, there are different forms of debt. And I think we don't have an open discussion often about the different forms of debt, and how debt actually works. Because when you look at the credit bureaus and everything that we try to spend our money on, everything that we try to buy when it pertains to financing something, is going to go to the credit bureaus. They're going to make a determination on whether you have adequate debt, which means, have you been paying on debt that is attached to your name? And it's a tricky system because you always have to have some kind of debt attached to your name. Not all debt is bad debt. That is what people have to understand. You hear so often that people want to, eliminate all debt. So they want to have their debt clean across the board. No debt on their house, no debt on their car, no debt on their credit card, so forth, etc. But not all debt is bad debt, because you have to have some debt attached to you in order to keep your credit score at a certain limit. They want to know that you're continuing to pay these things. It's a crazy system worth researching, and I always say, don't just take what I put out at face value. I tell my friends, tell my family, and I even tell my sisters and my siblings this: don't take what I say at face value. Go back, read a book. It will take you a lot of places if you just read a book. Open a book up. I know it's kind of hard these days with social media and technology, but definitely open a book. So you have personal debt. Personal debt is money you owe yourself. Not everybody takes the time and think about the money that we bring into our accounts and that we spend on things. My uncle used to always tell me, before you go buy something, make sure you have double the amount in your account for what you're going to buy. Because if you have double the amount in your account, then you can afford what you're trying to go out there and buy. If I don't have, let's say a house down payment is $2,800 for the down payment, or $3,000. If I don't have double that or triple that sometimes, I'm probably not going to put that investment out there. I'm probably not going to put that down payment on that house because I don't have extra of it to go around. And that makes a lot of sense. It didn't make sense when I was a child, when he told me this. But now that I'm literally turning 30, it makes so much sense to always have double the amount in your account. Then there's loan debt. And we all don't really like the loan debt. Loan debt is money you owe someone else. You're going to owe someone debt in your life, in your lifetime, multiple times within your life. You're going to owe someone debt. This is not a bad thing. This is pure gold. Just pay it, especially if it's hitting your credit, or even before it starts to hit your credit. Pay it. Knock that down, and allow that to be the catalyst to building your credit. Allow that debt to be the catalyst to building your credit. Let's say you have a credit card and you spend on a $500 limit, you spend $100. So now you have this $100 hitting your credit, and normally, of course, if you bought something with $100, maybe $200 on your credit card, you're not going to pay it off right in full. So first month, you spend $25 to pay it off, to pay on it. Next month, you spend $50. Next month, you spend $25, or within a 1 month period, you spend an entire you go bi-weekly, and you spend $50 one week, $50 the next week, however you see fit. That is going to get reported to the credit bureaus, and then they're going to slowly but surely raise your credit score. So this is the reason why it's good to have a good look credit flow going into your economics, or into not so much economics, but into your debt credit history report. And like I said, I'm not a professional, so bear with me. Loan personal debt is the next one. So you have to think about the money you might loan to somebody. Now, sometimes if you're loaning money to somebody, you need to get that in writing. This is if you're going to really want that money that you're loaning that person back, get it in writing, because getting it in writing reassures that you're going to get it back. At the same time, if you're just being generous and you have it sitting around and you want to help someone out, let them know up front that you're just helping them out. That way there's no confusion. And then if you're actually loaning them the money, get it in writing that way there's no disagreements, and legally they're obligated to actually refund you that money that you're loaning them. This loan person debt isn't actually like, it's not hit to the credit bureaus, it's not hit to none of that. It's just general principle, you and the other person that you might owe money to. Like me currently, I owe money to my cousin, and I've been paying her as best I can. But loan personal debt isn't a bad thing. At least you know that money is going to be coming back to you because that person knows they owe you that money. So that's the reason why not all debt is bad debt. And ultimately, the more you pay on this debt to the credit bureau, the better your credit becomes. And it gets deeper than that. It definitely gets deeper than that when it pertains to financial literacy and value. And this takes me into the next key points. Once again, if you haven't already, go look up Robert Kiyosaki and his wife, or any other financial lit teacher, professor, someone actually in the field who's actually doing things that cater around finances, and learn these things. Learn the difference between an asset and a liability. So when I first heard asset liability, I didn't understand it coming out of college, because I had never taken the time to actually learn this stuff. But an asset is literally something that works for you, and liability is something that works against you. So most of the time we feel as if, let's say getting a house. I had an argument with a person, or a disagreement rather, not an argument, but a disagreement with a person about buying a house versus it being a asset and a liability. They were telling me that if they buy a house and if they are living there, that house is an asset, because it's going to continue to create value for them in the long term. While this is true, that house is still at the moment a liability, because you're not making any kind of money off the house currently. So let's say I go and buy a house right now, and I live in an apartment currently. If I go buy a house right now, would it be in my best interest to live in that house currently right now, or to rent it out to somebody else? Now, mind you, I live in an apartment, I'm paying rent on the apartment. I go buy a house, I can easily take the money that I'm making, that I'm using on this apartment, to pay on that house, and I can live there. But I wouldn't be bringing in any extra money from my everyday today business, job, whatever. So if I go buy a house and allow someone else's family to live in that house, I can keep my apartment here, keep my job and my income that I'm bringing in, and I can literally reap the benefits of getting extra income from the house, because I'm now providing property that someone can live and rent, and they can have shelter for their family in that house. This is how things have been done in this society for years. It's been done for years in this society. It's not a bad thing. My car. My car is a liability if I'm not actually using it for no more than just getting around the city. I actually use my car to do extra things like drive and make an extra income. So now my car becomes an asset, and it's actually more business for that personal car versus being a liability, until I see fit to not use it for making money. One thing that's important to note is that wealth is silent and rich is flashy. So you have to understand that to be wealthy is to be silent, and that to be rich is to be flashy. And I mean, like, this is all perception, so how you view it. If you view, let's say, a rapper or someone who makes a lot of money and they're just flashing their money around, they are rich. And at the same time, you don't see what they're doing behind the scenes, the investments that they're making behind the scenes. They're kind of being like both. They're being rich and wealthy, because at the point they've gotten to, they're now rich, and they can go and now take that step into creating that wealth on top of their riches to create that legacy for their family. Now, everyday people like me and the rest of the world, we have to take a different approach to it. We have to be wealthy, we have to be silent sometimes and not be so flashy. You'll find that when you live in the inner city, you'll find so many people flashing their money everywhere, left and right, bragging on what they got. Might have the latest Jordans, might have $500 jeans on, nice belt, a nice hoodie, and they're real flashy with it. But you'll find that those individuals actually, in reality, don't really have that much money to their name. They take the money that they have and they put on the image without having the resources to back it up. And for me, I've always been the type, I have a mother who's very frugal and a father who can be very, outgoing when it comes to his money. So I've always been the type where I don't care if I have to wear something that might not be in a popular eye demand. This hoodie right here, no more than $15. My jeans that I'm wearing didn't cost me no more than probably like $15 at Ross. So, and they look really good to the point where I can go out and be like, oh, I'm dressed pretty decently regardless of how much money I've spent on it. And it saves me a big penny in a sense. And my money gets to actually grow in other ways when it's in the banks or in however you're saving your money. You have to understand there's different categories, such as broke, being well off, or just getting by. Broke is you have no money, you have nothing coming in. That's broke. Well off is literally you are able to say that you have some cushion when it pertains to your money. And that's what I would like to say that people should actually gear themselves into being in, is the well off area in the beginning, as you are growing towards your success and towards creating multiple incomes for yourself. Just getting by is what we all have done at one point or another. We all have been in that area of just getting by, to the point where we are probably living check to check and it does not feel good. And as a lot of people have said, I'm just in a temporary state until I get my next fix for my weekly or bi-weekly pay. Just getting by doesn't really feel good, and it should make you have a sense of urgency for getting what you need to get when it pertains to your finances. That brings me to the next category: multiple pools of income. Now, I didn't understand or didn't even know about multiple pools of income when I first graduated college. Like I said, I went to college, I got my degree in journalism. I did what I had to do to get it, and it worked out for me in certain ways it didn't. But I had no pre-knowledge of multiple pools of income. And those of my peers probably knew about this stuff when I was in college, but I just wasn't disciplined to understand or even know these things while I was in college. Or rather, I was dealing with certain things that hindered me from knowing these things early on. So as of right now, I work doing Uber Eats, bring in an additional income from another source. So I bring in a decent amount of money from that, while at the same time writing novel content and publishing it and operating as a personal trainer in my everyday life. So these things allow me to, I wouldn't say so much I'm not rich, and I'm definitely on a road to try to be wealthy, but it allows me to be somewhat well off. And I like to say, when I say be somewhat well off, I like to say don't be comfortable. Comfortability is the biggest killer of anything and everything that you're trying to achieve in this world. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to take maybe a day or two, or even a week sometimes. It's okay to take a week and just zone out and do you a little bit to take your mind off of everything you're doing that you're trying to build. But don't get comfortable. Don't get comfortable in where you're at, knowing that there is a next level capability that you have to reach. And that brings me back to that, Robert Kiyosaki's brackets for employee, self-employed, business owner, and investor. The minute you start to see multiple streams of income, you're going to literally be setting yourself up for either success or failure for what you're trying to achieve. Now, this is not to say failure as in you failed. Failure is okay. Failure is good. We tend to criticize those who fail, but every time you fail, you actually learn a lesson. If you fail once and you fall and you get back up, are you really a failure if you attack it again? Yes, you failed, but the next time you come back stronger, you come back better. You're able to do it a lot better the next time. You're never going to be, done and out if you're getting back up towards that success. They say, for the light bulb, when creating the light bulb, he literally failed a lot of times, and then he had that one success. So no matter how many times he failed to make the light bulb, and he wasn't even trying to make the light bulb, he literally failed a lot to the point where he failed on his experiments. Then that one last experiment, boom, the light bulb. George Washington, I believe. Like that one success is what we remember. But we don't remember the failures because we tend to praise the person when they've succeeded, in a sense. So we get to this point for people who are literally going for their goals, grinding. We don't see what they're doing in the after hours. We don't see what they're doing when they're not in the limelight. We tend to praise people for what they've done when they've finally gotten into the limelight versus what they are doing when they're actually failing at things multiple times, hitting the ground, and actually getting back up. It's when the person is literally hitting the ground and getting back up, they're creating momentum. They're creating that inner drive to keep themselves going towards the next goal. This is what we all need to recreate within ourselves. If you fail at something one time, get back up and don't see it as a big deal that you failed. Just learn from it. Learn the lesson. For me, I failed at my driver's exam 3 times, not the written, but the actual driving portion. Like, I went to the DMV 3 times. It was 3 times before I actually passed the driver's exam in Chicago. And that taught me a lot. I failed my personal training certification 2 times before I actually passed it. and maybe I just got a learning curve, but hey, it's okay to fail because I drive like a beast now. I ain't all that, but I do drive really good at this point. So it's okay to understand that failing isn't the end of the world. Now, I'm not going to sit here and praise you for that failing if you stay down and don't get back up and you just let it beat you, let it defeat you. But at the same time, I want people to understand that we are not perfect. We're not meant to be perfect. We're meant to just keep striving towards our goals and try to be better every day. So you have to understand that there is no such thing as get rich quick. Far too often people out here are trying to get rich quick, and I don't know where that came from. I'm probably not the best person to even try to determine where get rich quick came from, but it's not possible. Like, you can win $1 million today. If you don't have the financial literacy behind how to make $1 million work for you, you will lose that $1 million within probably 6 months to a year's time. You will lose all that money somehow, some way. There's a saying that if they were to divide all the money that the wealthy individuals in the world have amongst the poor will lose that money and it'll be right back into the wealthy, rich people's hands. So with that being the case, you have to literally understand money before you're getting ready to gear out to actually make money for yourself, for your family, and you have to have a plan. I have literally 2 personal bank accounts that is outside of my credit and everything. 2 debit accounts, one for my job that I work every day, one for my business. That way, the money I make on my business, it goes into that separate debit card, and I can sit on it and allow it to just be there and grow for when I need to use it for investments or whatever, blase skippy, And this is why having a financial plan is very critical. If you don't have a financial plan for what you're trying to do with your family, what you're trying to do with your business, you are setting yourself up for failure. And you're going to bump your head a couple of times. We all have been there, fail. It's okay, once again. So I have a list that I like to call steps to residual income. For those who cannot skip these beginning steps due to growing up in a certain family background, it's okay. If you can skip these steps, then do so. If you can. For step 1, having a job. Understanding that having a job is not a bad thing. We all have had a 9-to-5 job where we had to get up, go every day, and work. It is not a bad thing. Do not sit and let someone tell you that because you work a 9-to-5 job and they don't, that they're better than you, because they're not. They're not better than you, and you're not better than them. But a job, we all had to have a job at one point. We all had to start somewhere. And as you work that job, it brings me to step 2. You save yearly. You save your money yearly, whether it's you saving, $10,000 of what you're making yearly, or you're saving $5,000 of what you're making yearly. As long as you're saving it for future investments. And that brings me to step number 3. You take the money that you saved and you divide it into 2 different categories. You take the money that you saved and you, 1, keep it in the save for rainy day bracket. And we all have those parents who have told us, my mom definitely reassures me with this, you need to be saving for rainy day. You need to be saving for rainy day. And I love her dearly. So you put it in that bracket, or for number 2, you put it in the investment bracket. So that's taking that money that you saved, putting it into real estate, learning a skill that can bring you in more money, stocks and bonds, etc. Taking that money and actually allowing it to work for you. And that brings me to step 4, where now you're literally opening property, you have another business attached to your name, and you're literally growing yourself and your revenue for your family. This is what everybody should be doing. Whether you are a man, whether you are a woman, I do not care of your gender. I don't care about your sexual orientation. This is what you should be doing with your time and the money that you're making. Yes, have fun, but make sure you have a plan. A plan is necessary. A plan is needed. Step 5, keep your income circulating in new projects. You want to keep your income circulating in new projects because you don't want to get to this point where you're comfortable. Always circulate your money into new projects, or allow it to circulate within your business to build your business in different ways. Maybe you branch out into this, or you branch out into that. You start doing something a little bit different. You take that money that you've already made and you recycle it within yourself or in another form of investment. So let's say you're making a certain amount of money at this point, and your friend has a business they want to get off the ground. You can literally try and help your friend by investing into your friend's business. Now that is a risk, but without taking risks, you don't make money out here. So money and the creation of money, and remember, money is just a tool. The creation of money is literally just being a risky individual and taking risk. You're not going to make money if you don't take risk. So now I'm going to go a little bit into value. Understand, the world will tell you that your value is in your money and how much money you make. It is not. There are countless amounts of people in the world who make lots of money and they are miserable, unhappy, and they fill their time trying to fill a void that they can't fill. Money cannot fill a void that's in you, that's inside of you. Money cannot fill a void that's in your spirit. So do not allow money to be that placeholder within your in your soul, in a sense. And don't allow someone else to tell you what your value is based on your money. If you are a man, and I'm not the type of person who is afraid to talk about my money, how much money I make, X, Y, etc., whatever. I make about $40,000 a year. Compared to where I was at 5 years ago, that's a biggie. And I'm not ashamed to say that, hey, I'm gonna let God and life and the lessons I'm learning take me to new heights. But that's not a shame in my mind. And if individuals that's in your life have an issue with the money that you're making, they might not need to be in your life. Hands down. They might not actually have any value to your life if they see what you're making at that price range as not enough, because then they can't speak to you, to the inner you. The person or people in your life should be able to speak to the inner you to allow you to create more on top of what you're already doing, bringing in. For me, what I'm actually bringing in every month with the money that I actually make between my Uber Eats and the other source of income that I have, brings me a decent amount of money to take care of myself at the moment. And as I reach for higher goals, it's going to multiply. And that's the true telling of your money and how you're allowing it to work for you versus you work for it. You're going to be able to create more on top of it. But don't allow people to tell you that your value is in your money. And don't allow people to just use you or be with you, be around you for your money, because they're not beneficial in your life. And The same goes for you as a person. Do not think that the amount of money that you make is any type of entitlement to, the finer things in life. And, society might tell us, yeah, because you make this much money, you can do this and do this. Karma is real. Karma comes around and bites you in the butt. Hands down. It'll come around and it'll get you. So try to be transparent as possible when it pertains to what you're doing out here in the world. Your value isn't attached to your car. This is for men especially. Men need to know this especially. Your value isn't attached to your car. Your value isn't attached to the type of house you have. Your value isn't attached to the money you make. There's only one thing that is attached to you as a person. This man for men and women, the one thing that is attached to you as a person is your purpose. Your purpose is the one thing that God has called you to do when it pertains to your life, and it's written in the Bible and in other texts that your purpose is what you are to be focused on. I love to write. I haven't made much money on writing, but I love writing. It's what I was called to do. So even though I operate as an Uber Eats driver and I make an additional income with another source, at the moment, me writing makes me happy. It's what I feel as if I was called to do, so it makes me happy. If I'm not making money writing, I'm going to continue to write. It's what I was called to do. It's my purpose in a sense. So by it being what I feel like I was called to do, I would do it regardless of making money, and allow God to do what he has to do when it pertains to that. But I'll continue to write. I'm not going to stop writing to save my life. Like, I take these notebooks and these journals everywhere I go, but that's because I love writing. I have my planner that I write everything down every day in. I have a journal here that I write stuff for my business in, for my personal training, for cooking, and for writing. All goes into here. I have another journal here. I have my financial book right here. So it's like, writing is who I am. Writing is a part of me. It's the thing that's going to be there when I'm 80 years old and I'm sitting in my house and I got my rocking chair. Please don't give me a rocking chair. Whoever I'm married to, do not get me a rocking chair. And I'm going to be sitting there writing. It's the one thing I love to do the most without any kind of distraction or feeling as if I want to use it for making money. It's that thing that has always been with me. I've taken other things like other hobbies and created businesses off of them. Personal training was originally me losing 100 and some pounds, starting off at like over 327 pounds and losing over 100 pounds by working out. So I had a hobby, a love of working out in the gym as a fitness, just working out in the gym. I wasn't trying to be a fitness personality. I wasn't trying to be anything on that level. And I literally took that transformation and turned it into a business when it was originally was a hobby. For me, personal training can stay a hobby if it has to. It could be a business, whichever way God sees fit or however I want to work it, I can see it that way. But what I love about life is that there's always a next level. And I don't care who you are, what you do. Don't never let nobody tell you that that you're limited due to circumstance. If you are a kid living in Nigeria or living in any other country, you're able to grow in many ways beyond what the media might say. And me being a kid from Chicago, I got my minor in African American Studies. Me being a kid from Chicago, I realized that what was taught to us in grammar school and high school about the motherlands, we call it Africa, was the complete opposite of what it actually is. Now, yes, there are certain areas over there that are not, and this is a side topic, there are certain areas that are not like developed in a sense, but there are cities in Africa that are highly developed, just like America. So just explore your mind, learn this information, crack open a book, and allow the books that have been written, even if you got to go back generations, even if you got to go back to like 1950s or a book written in 1902 to learn something that can better you, do that. It's okay. You're going to appreciate that knowledge that you bring into yourself. And one last key, taking knowledge and turning that knowledge into application. Because you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't know how to turn that knowledge into application, it's going on deaf ears. Your deaf ears. Because somebody else is going to take that knowledge and they're going to turn it into application. So this your boy Rob, aka Novelty Life. If this is a video that you like, even if it's not a video you like, you know, pass it along to somebody else. Let them learn it. Like, share, comment, subscribe. It's your boy. Holla back. That's old. I'm old. Ooh, holla back.